literature, which is a little misleading because I will not only be speaking about Folklore and Evermore's literature, but songs from a few of Swift's albums as works of literature, most notably Evermore, but also Folklore and a little bit of Tortured Poets Department. So my focus will be on what makes Swift's work distinctly literature, expressed in musical form rather than just music as a whole. In order to demonstrate that her lyrics are literary and therefore literature, I will describe some of the key literary strategies or techniques that she uses when writing her lyrics. Although there are some critics who do not view Swift's songs as forms of literature and try to diminish its value as a form of poetry, I will challenge their nefarious criticisms by proving that Swift's songs and folklore and a few other albums are full of sophisticated literary devices that give them a powerful aesthetic or artistic appeal that is based not only in musical features like melody, pitch, rhythm, and dynamics, or in aspects of performance, such as dynamic stage presence and expression of intense emotion, but also in the beauty and power of the written language. The word! While there are many literary aspects of Swift's songwriting that I could discuss, to cover all of them would take far longer than I have available and you would be willing to listen. So I will keep my manifesto on the literary dimension of Swift songs short and sweet by discussing three aspects of it: the significance of its classical and literary allusions, the appeal of its poetic imagery, and its metaphorical complexity and richness. In speaking of these elements of her songs, I have chosen to avoid using overly specialist language, since that would be only interesting to English students and faculty. Instead, I will speak about these strategies in more accessible ways, or at least I hope that I do. So, uh, to begin, Swift makes use of classical references within her songs. And when I say classical, I am referring to works of ancient Greece or Rome, and not classics such as Charles Dickens's Great Expectations. In the bridge of Taylor Swift's song Champagne Problems from the Evermore album, she sings the following line about the behavior of the narrator's ex-boyfriend, referring to his Midas touch on the Chevy door. This is a direct reference to Midas, the mythical king of Phrygia, who had the mystical ability to turn everything he touched into gold. As Swift is referencing a car in this line, she may be alluding both to the gift of the mythical king and to the car repair company, Midas International, whose slogan is, "Trust the Midas touch." Therefore, Swift might simply be saying that her ne'er-do-well ex-boyfriend had, at one time, the ability to fix or repair anything he touches, cars and more. However, if we are to read the lyric in the context of the whole song, which focuses on a woman who seems to be struggling with mental illness turning down her boyfriend's proposal, a more complex reading of the metaphor emerges. Her boyfriend appears to come from a wealthy family who can buy a bottle of Dom Perignon for his upcoming proposal, and his community of judgmental friends subject their relationship to gossip and rumors and take pleasure in, as hometown skeptics, predicting their failed engagement. Within this context, we could take this allusion to Midas to mean that her boyfriend's touch can turn something to gold, as in make it beautiful, but therefore also make it unusable or practically useless. One cannot, after all, drive a solid gold car. Therefore, the narrator might feel that her ex is metaphorically trying to turn her, like the Chevy, into something that she is not, but something that his family and friends would see as valuable. He wants to repair her by hiding her emotional struggles and making her beautiful, at least on the surface, to him and his community. However, this makes her feel unseen and trapped, and this is why she turns down his proposal. She does not want to be repaired or fixed by him. This is emphasized by the following line, "November flush in your flannel cure," as flannel was commonly used as a folk remedy for coughs, colds, and other ailments, and therefore her boyfriend's apparent cure for her mental instability, or what he sees as her brokenness, is ineffective. Swift makes another classical reference in her song Cowboy Like Me from the same album. The narrator sings about her lover, "Now you hang from my lips like the gardens of Babylon." The Hanging Gardens of Babylon are said to be one of the seven wonders of the ancient world, which some literary sources state were built by Nebuchadnezzar for his wife Amethyst. On the surface level, the narrator seems in this line to be associating her lover and their love with the wonder and beauty of the Hanging Gardens, with the line, "hang from my lips," likely referring to a kiss. However, once again, if we read this allusion within the greater context of the song, it gains another layer of meaning. Cowboy Like Me is a love song about a man and a woman who are both scammers. They play into the affections of rich folks for money and other material goods. Put simply by the narrator, never wanted love, just a fancy car. However, the plot of the song describes the man and woman's dreamy meeting on the dance floor and the fact that despite trying to con one another, they seem to fall into genuine love. Considering the exact location, or even possibly the existence of, the Gardens of Babylon have long been disputed, the narrator may be implying that she is unsure whether the love between them is actually real, as both of their previous endeavors in love have been so inauthentic. Or she might be hinting that, as Shakespeare would write in Merchant of Venice, all that glitters is not gold, and what appears as wondrous hanging gardens of love are likely to wither and fade, since forever is the sweetest con. Notice that, like all great writers, Swift uses allusions to open up a range of meanings rather than to limit meaning. So, Swift's allusions and quotations from other works are not only to classical figures and myths, but to literature across many periods of time, revealing her knowledge of literary history and tradition. In The Albatross, from Swift's most recent album, The Tortured Poets Department, Swift alludes heavily to the Romantic poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge's lyric, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, which was first published in England in 1798. In Coleridge's lyric, the mariner of a ship shoots an albatross, even after it has led his ship and crew to safety among the icy waters, leading the wind to blow them towards an isolated, stationary, slimy seascape, leading to deadly consequences for all but the mariner. In Swift's The Albatross, she uses Coleridge's lyric as an overarching metaphor to explain the relationship between the narrator, her male love interest, and the mob, or the media, that tries to prevent their relationship. I believe that the albatross is presented as a metaphor for the narrator, or Swift herself, if we are to take the song as autobiographical. However, rather than making her male love interest a figure of the mariner, it is rather the mob, specifically a mob of men, who have tried to prevent the narrator and her love interest relationship, trying to persuade the man to believe that she will destroy him. The repeated chorus emphasizes how her love interest underestimates the mob and the damage they could do, despite her countless warnings. But just as the albatross is a force of good, who is wickedly treated by men it had helped in Coleridge's poem, Swift's narrator is revealed in the final chorus to be a force of good, there to protect the man she loves from public scrutiny for their relationship. As Swift writes, "So I crossed my thoughtless heart, spread my wings like a parachute. I'm the albatross. I swept in at the rescue. The devil that you know looks now more like an angel. I'm the life you chose and all this terrible danger." The literary context makes the third line of this song, "A rose by any other name is a scandal," bear a lot more meaning and weight. The line references William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, wherein Juliet tries to convince Romeo that it is only their family names that make them enemies. That which we call a rose by any other would smell as sweet. However, the narrator of the albatross twists the line, suggesting that regardless of the name of her lover, his social standing, his family, etc., that it will be a scandal due to the mob's ruthless approach to her and her personal life. We see a familiar pattern in the literary and historical references of Swift's The Lakes from the Folklore album. The title alludes to the Lake District, which many well-known romantic poets wrote about or even lived beside, with the most famous being Robert Southey, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and William Wordsworth, who are referred to as the Lake Poets. In the chorus, she describes wishing to run away to one of the towns in the Lake District with her lover. "Take me to the lakes where all the poets went to die. I don't belong, and my beloved, neither do you. Those Windermere peaks look like a perfect place to cry. I'm setting off, but not without my muse. The opening line of the song, "Isn't it romantic how all my elegies eulogize me?" references both the ideas associated with romanticism, such as retreating to nature to escape city life, but also elegies, which were a common genre in the Romantic period, as Wordsworth's numerous elegies demonstrate. In the Lakes, Swift draws on the ornate and nature-centric language of the Romantics, describing her desire for auroras and sad prose, and to watch wisteria grow over her bare feet, while she bathes in cliffside pools with her calamitous love and insurmountable grief. Like many good poets, the metaphors, like the allusions that Swift forms in her songs, often transcend their original meaning within the culture of her fans. For one example, in Swift's song, "Right Where You Left Me" from Evermore, the narrator describes her inability to move on from a relationship that ended, despite the fact that the rest of the world has gone forward without her. Stop clapping! Don't clap. But Swift captures the terminal grief over her lost love through the metaphor of being trapped in the place where the breakup occurred. The first line of the pre-chorus, "Help, I'm still at the restaurant," is, in Swift's original meaning, referring to this unhappy place, an unnamed restaurant. However, many fans online, especially on TikTok, have used the song, specifically this line, to communicate different forms of grief than that which inspired Swift's songwriting. Some fans have read it as a metaphor for a familial or platonic relationship that they lost rather than a romantic one. Others read it as a metaphor for the grief of feeling stuck in a period of your life you believed was temporary, from a starter job to chronic pain. Some fans have even read it as a metaphor for their inability to move on from a more general traumatic event in their life. Therefore, while Right Where You Left Me is a song about a breakup of a specific romantic relationship in a specific place and time, its metaphorical richness speaks to its audience strongly enough to enable them to interpret it in a range of ways, giving voice to their own distinct or unique griefs and sufferings, speaking to what Aristotle called the universal event rather than to Swift's specific situation. In conclusion, to those who like to frame Taylor Swift as an undeservingly popular, narcissistic superstar who does nothing but write shallow, uncreative pop songs about her exes for her silly teen audience, I hope that I have persuaded you to reconsider how much time you've actually spent listening to her songs and reading her lyrics. Although she does compose some more traditional pop songs that have simple lyrics, Many of her songs, especially those in her more recent discography, have engaged in many more sophisticated literary tactics. The metaphors, allusions, and emotional complexity in her songs have introduced a generation of young women to past literature and literary analysis, hundreds of thousands of fans engaging with and interpreting her texts and each other online to find the meaning of her lyrics and the meaning of their own lives. Thank you.